Tell me a little about yourself. What'd you do before you got into real estate? How'd you get into it? And tell me a little bit about your history and your background.
I went to college for about half a semester, decided that wasn't for me, and so jumped right into starting a business. I started with FedEx. FedEx Ground is all contracted out. Most people never know that, but built up where we had 20 routes with FedEx throughout Oklahoma City, like 30 employees. And then just had always dreamed about real estate. Actually, before that, I had went through real estate. You know, Roger Despain went through his course and went and took the test, passed it immediately, and then did the background check. Well, just being, young and dumb, I had gotten a DUI when I was younger, and that kept me from passing the background check. And so moved on, got into the trucking business, which growing up, my parents had a trucking business, so that was just kind of like the
family business.
Yeah. And so I did that, made really great money, but it was super stressful. So one day, it was about 2 weeks before a Disney World trip we had planned with our kids, we almost had to cancel, and I decided I was selling that business and getting into real estate. And so we did. I mean, it took us a couple months, sold that, and we ended up buying a real estate franchise that I'm no longer with, but did that for the first probably 4 years of my real estate career. It was great. I mean, right out of the gate, I think we bought 36 houses that first year and flipped 11 of them, wholesaled the rest, which I would not suggest.
Yeah.
But it was good. We won Rookie of the Year that year. I ended up becoming a development agent, which sold and trained the new franchises. Did that for 4 years. And then it just started not working as well, the marketing with that franchise. And so we actually picked up and we moved to LA for 2 years. And we did the same thing out there, flipped houses and wholesaled. And that's where I first got my real estate license, was in California. Just those first couple months, I actually kind of had the time to sit down and do it. And never really used my license a whole lot. Did a couple deals, ones that we couldn't buy deep enough to make work as a flip or wholesale. And so we'd list them for them. In 2019, we decided to move home. And at that time, I had about 17 rental properties and thought the market was high at that time. And so sold everything, and that was probably April, May sometime. And then in September, decided that I wanted to start buying and holding rental property again. And so about that time, we hit it hot and heavy and bought 60 rental properties within 18 months.
Oh, wow.
And burnt myself out on buying rental properties. So then we got to a point where we're wholesaling and flipping everything. And then now just recently, we are back to, that's the main thing, is buying a rental property again. But now I've got a team built around me. Back in those days when we put away 60 and 18 months, it was literally me and 2 acquisitions guys. I was doing everything else other than meeting with sellers.
All the management too?
The property management, the project management, just everything.
That's a lot.
It was a lot. But now I've got a team. I mean, we've got a team of, I think, about 25 people total, half of them in office, half virtual. And we average about 20 deals a month, typically mostly on the wholesale and buying rentals and flips. And then we also are building a real estate team too, where we, just with all the leads that come through, there's a lot that we can't make work as an investment that we can list. So just another way to monetize a lead. So.
Yeah. So much to unpack there. That was a big story. So sold your business. Did that give you a little walking around money to get into the real estate industry with?
Yeah.
And did you jump straight into, was it HomeVestor, We Buy Ugly Houses, that the franchise you're talking about? So did you jump straight into it, or had you done a couple of deals on your own, what was the transition into real estate?
So I actually kind of missed the part. So when I was still with FedEx, we built a new construction house. So that was the very first thing I did in real estate. Just had a bad partnership that didn't continue after that. But at the same time, the first deal, so we overbuilt. I mean, we broke even. Didn't lose any money, but we didn't make any money either. And so we decided not to do that, and that was kind of the time I discovered the investment side of real estate.
Kind of when did you have some deals prior to HomeVestor? Or did you start it and then get deals?
Sure. So after that new construction, the first thing that we did was with HomeVestors. We advertised for probably about a month before we got our first deal.
Pretty good.
In Southwest Oklahoma City, a crappy little house. When you think of a fixer-upper as his house, it's everything you think of, hoarder, super dirty, and in a not so great neighborhood. It was very, in training, for the franchise, they tell you, sit on the dirty couch. It was a dirty couch, so. Didn't make a whole lot of money, but it was, our first deal, and really, when you're new in real estate, whether if it's listings or wholesale or whatever it is, like it's, once you get past that first one, I feel like it's, you know, it's so much easier. It's that hard one is the first one is the hardest one.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's that, you know, we tell this to our agents. It's like when you finally pick up a buyer, you show them houses, you find one they like, you write the contract, you go through the inspections, you go through the appraisal, you go to closing, you get your check, and you see it come full circle, and you realize, oh, okay, this works. Now I know what the next step is, and so just not knowing what to do next is big. So was there a great benefit to getting the franchise? I'd seen those around, but and I hear franchises with restaurants or, you know, other stuff. What value were they kind of providing? Just out of my own curiosity, was it leads or lead training, or what was the value there?
I would say the biggest thing was, for one, you had a mentor to rely on. You know, this is 2014, where, I mean, today, like, everybody is willing to help. You could find content left and right, and that was really just kind of beginning back then. And so you had a mentor to rely on, but also they did all the advertising for you. And so coming from a business where I never once had to advertise for business, you know, FedEx, the work just showed up. We just showed up and did the work every day. But like I said, when that stopped not working as well, it was like, there's no value in this franchise anymore. I'm paying, you know, percentage of my sales price, not even of my profit, a percentage of my sales price every time I sell a house, and it just, you know, wasn't worth it anymore.
Stops making sense. Yeah. So you kind of talked a little bit about the mentorship that was offered. Outside of that, what kind of coaching or courses or what kind of education have you given yourself through your career? Was it all just learn, you know, getting thrown into the fire, or did you have more coaching and more mentoring?
So when I decided to leave the franchise, I actually joined a real estate mastermind. I learned a lot through that, but I think a lot of it too is just mindset, getting around people that are doing 100 deals a year. Because I joined that in April of 2019, and that year, all of a sudden, we did 75 deals that year. From April to the end of the year. That was the year we moved home to Oklahoma too, from LA.
Was that a free mastermind, or was it something you
No,
paid to be a part
it's
of?
paid, and I'm still part of it today. I mean, like I said, it's been life-changing, and it's been great, and I've, you know, been invited to speak, you know, like as a speaker at it, and I've, you know, we do hot seat presentations where we share about our business every single time we go quarterly. You know, everybody there kind of pours into you, and then so you have a give and then you have an ask. So you know, ask what your challenges are, and people give you tips, and it's been great. You know?
That's awesome. And it's people doing way more than you, and some people doing less than you.
Yeah, it's a good mixture.
Yeah. Is it local or is it a national?
No, it's national.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're dealing with people in different markets.
Yeah.
How was, so you kind of did a little bit of investing in California, flipping houses, you said. Is it easier there because the numbers are bigger? Is it different? What's the, compare Oklahoma and California to me?
So I would say on the investing side, it was a little easier. You know, this is a few years ago. Things have gotten even hotter since then. But on the investment side, it was a little bit easier in the fact there wasn't as much competition. Your competition was new realtors who didn't really have the training that they'd go in and tell them their house could sell for $500,000 when there was no way. But like on the realtor side, like you think we have a lot of realtors in Oklahoma. Like it was crazy. So you saw a lot of realtors that would be in and out of the business pretty quick. So it was pretty competitive on that side. But on the investment side, like I said, it was rare that we were running into you know, other investors on the same appointment. But I will say I think it was more exciting just in the fact that, for one, you have a lot of different architecture out there. Every house is different, which even in two side-by-side houses, if the architecture is different, like, are different valued. So it was just another learning curve. But it was more exciting because the numbers were bigger, right? And so you could do less deals and make more money.
Yeah, that's what I'm sure everyone watching, and myself included, watches the house flipping shows that are in California. And they're spending the same amount on the rehab, right? They're spending 50, 60, 70 grand on the rehab, but their sales prices are 400, 500, 600. And so it's just like, it doesn't seem fair sometimes.
And those shows are very fabricated.
They're drama shows. So you talk about doing 40 deals or 70 deals a year. How is your business made up now? So maybe you know off the top of your head. If not, what is it percentage-wise on buy and holds, flips, and wholesale type? What's the breakdown now?
Yeah, so the majority ends up being wholesale, and I don't know the exact numbers, you know, I'm just going to guess, but the majority, and just because we're high volume, the majority ends up being wholesale. But our first, like when we first look at a deal, it's like, does it make sense as a rental property?
That's your priority.
That's our goal right now is buying rental properties. And so if it doesn't work as that, then we'll move on to wholesale it. Yeah, I mean, that's the main goal, is putting away rental properties, because, you can flip, wholesale a house and make that 10, 20 grand, whatever it is today.
Right.
But it's spent and gone tomorrow. Whereas with the rental property, it might not pay you as much, but it's paying you every single month until you sell that house. Plus, especially with the last couple of years, the appreciation we've had, the rents have gone up. I mean, it's been really great time to be in rental property.
So even right now, August of 2022, rates are growing up. You're still looking to acquire rental properties right now. Are they just not as many are making sense, or are you in the process of changing your strategy?
Well, everybody is so used to rates being so low. We're all spoiled, right? Like, rates are still historically low. When I got in, I think I was most of my loans back then were like 7.5%. And so we're still, I think our latest one that we just did was like 5.25%, something like that. So we're still low, especially on the investment side. Like, it's rare that you would get less than 6% money on a commercial loan. So we're still holding, and the thing is, as long as the numbers work, I don't care if it's 20% interest. Like, you're going to find a way to make the numbers work. It just means you're buying at a lower price.
Yeah. So what is that criteria when you're looking at it? It goes through your filter. First one is, can we buy and hold it? Are you looking for a return, a monthly cash flow, or what is it that you're looking for? Is there values that you don't like to take if it's over 200,000, or what's kind of that filter for you?
Yeah, I'd say we're staying under like 250,000. Here lately, when I was aggressively growing, I mean, we would just take anything that made sense as long as it was cash flowing, we'd buy it. Whereas now we're trying to buy a little bit nicer houses. So like recently we had one come up in Piedmont that was, I think it's like a 10-year-old house. So rather than, it would have been a great flip, but rather than flipping it, we kept it as a rental. Buying it probably a little on the high side, but at the same time, it's a 10-year-old house in a great area that's going to continue appreciating. It's going to rent super easy and good rents. So there's a lot of factors, area, the rent amount, and the number one criteria obviously is as long as it cash flows.
Right. Do you take on negative cash flow properties?
Never.
No. Even if you love the location, love the appreciation, never touch them?
No.
Okay, that's good. That's interesting. I've heard people do different. I mean, there's a million ways to skin a cat.
Just a point on that, like, if you're buying negative cash flowing properties, you're not an investor. You're a speculator.
Yep.
So.
Phenomenal point. How many? Just this. We'll say this last month. Are you? How many deals have you guys bought, flipped, wholesaled in this last month?
Yeah, I think we had 21 purchase contracts last month, and I couldn't tell you exactly how that shook out, but I think we probably kept 3 or 4 as rental properties, cherry-picked 1 or 2 that are going to be flips, and wholesaled the rest.
Okay. So what's your 21 properties that's a great volume. What's your biggest month? Just at a...
I think 32 is my biggest.
That's awesome. So what's your process for due diligence there? You said you got a team around you are all the ARVs still going through you, or all the rental? Like, what is all that process now? What's your process for due diligence?
No, it's got to a point now, like I basically am signing the contracts. We have a meeting every week where we go through and figure out what our strategy with each one's going to be. And so other than that, I'm pretty hands-off. We have acquisitions specialists that are talking with the sellers, meeting with sellers, making the offers. And then we have a leads manager that is running all the ARVs, putting in the offer range that the acquisition specialists can make. I have a director of operations that oversees all of them. And then I have a project manager now that's managing all the rehabs. And we have a relationship manager who deals with selling all our flips as well as selling our wholesales and just, dealing with investors.
Yeah. So you're signing the contracts electronically, I assume, right? Yes. Electronically. Going to the closings?
Closings happen at our office.
Okay.
I met with an agent, I don't know how long ago it was, but he was telling me how they had a title company come into their office and doing closings there, and I was like, that's a great idea. Good idea. It's like, especially with how many do we do. So now closings actually happen in conference room at our office. It's great, we're able to get face-to-face with the sellers, one last time, which helps with getting reviews, which helps with if there was, some friction for whatever reason, just making sure that, we're taking care of the seller. That's the most important thing.
Right.
We're basically a service business. a lot of people look down on the wholesale industry, think you're taking advantage of people, but if you talk to our sellers, like they are ecstatic to be out of the situation, the house. It's not even the house, it's whatever situation's tied to that. And so it's just one last time to, like I said, get in front of them. Like I said, with as many closings we're doing, I'd be at the title company all the time. So
makes sense.
It's nice.
Yeah, that's a great point. A lot of people, because it sounds like a chunk of your business is the wholesale side, if it doesn't work as a rental. But so many people, especially recently with the legislation coming through Oklahoma, people imagine wholesalers as like, walking in with a bandit mask and beating some old lady over the head and taking her money out from under her bed. And so but most people, they can't imagine, like, why would someone want to sell a house, especially people in real estate. It's like there's so many situations, hardships are tied, liens, and so much. There's a million situations. You probably never see the same thing twice. But it is. That's a great. I've never heard it described as a service business before.
No.
Sure, you're making money on the back end, but you disclose that in the contract. You disclose that in the negotiation. And it's a service base. That's an interesting way to approach it. But it has a bad, especially among realtors, I think. I don't think realtors understand the wholesale process.
That's what I was going to say. I don't think a lot of people understand it, and that's why it gets a bad rap. And of course, there's some bad apples out there, but there is in every business and all sides of real estate.
Yeah.
It definitely gets a bad rap, and especially today with social media and stuff the way it is, you have people out there that are just flashing checks, and that just gives it a very negative connotation. But it's a good business that I don't think would go away. I mean, even with legislation being built around it, and Oklahoma is one of the first to do it, but it's going nationwide very soon. I mean, Nebraska just put something into place. Illinois already had something, and even what we have in Oklahoma is just the beginning.
Yeah.
Like it's
very
I mean, literally all it is right now is you have to be licensed.
Yeah. They don't even have rules
to market. But I think his name was Grant with Ogle.
The director of Ogle.
I had a good talk with him about it, and I mean, he just said like they're trying to do it in the right way, where they're not just coming in all of a sudden just ruining people's businesses and putting a stop to it. So right now it's that you're licensed to market a contract, and then in a year or two there's going to be more rules that are added. And I mean, every year there's going to be more stuff that's added.
Yeah, I think this November they're supposed to be meeting to start walking through the first iteration of statutes around it. And Grant's a super sharp dude, and he's very logical approach to this whole thing. He's not just trying to go after people. So that's good. I'm a low-level real estate investor myself. There's a huge value for the wholesalers, because going out, pounding the pavement, anyone who's tried it, pounding the pavement, finding the leads, negotiating, getting the contracts, that's a huge process. And so for people to go out there, and again, if it makes sense for me, why can't someone else shave a piece off of it too for the service? So yeah, wholesalers I think provide a great value for investors, and as you said, a service to the homeowners just to help them get out of a situation. Let's get into the financing piece of it a little bit. I think this is a big piece that hangs up a lot of new investors, because they don't know the commercial lending industry is a game. I think when you can kind of learn how it played and all the players, most people don't understand how it's played and all the players. And so tell me how you're getting a lot of your deals. Are you using just commercial loans? Are you using private money, 30-year mortgages? Tell me kind of what yours looks like.
Yeah, so I mean, we're to a point now where we've built up credibility, right? And so we have people reach out that want to have idle funds that we put to work. And so we use a lot of private money now. And typically, so we're doing like the burst strategy where you buy, rehab, refinance, repeat. So typically we're purchasing with private money, get it going, get it rented, and then refinance it. And lately we've been doing a 30-year AM just because there's local banks that are offering it now. And so we do all local banks. I've never used a national bank. I've never used hard money. But beginning, like, we're in a great community here in Oklahoma City for community banks. Like there is, I couldn't even tell you how many, at least 10, if not more, that love lending on real estate. And it just takes going in and building a relationship. The good thing about these community banks too is a lot of times you can shake the hand of the person making the decision, or at least they sit on the board that's making the decision. So, I'd be happy to, if anyone wants to reach out, I'd be happy to share some of those contacts. But, First Security Bank was probably the one that got me my start. I mean, I started using them from the beginning. John Day that works there has a great program. So, yeah, I mean, it's just, like I said, finding a lender that you can work with. And banks are weird. Some are going to love you and want to be, hounding you about more loans, and some are going to turn you down, and just you can't take it right.
Some loans and
whatever's written in that bank's rules is what they have to go by. And so don't be hurt if they turn you down. Just go on to the next one, because the next one might love what you're about. So I mean, we've been turned down by banks that I know are lending to, this buddy over here that's doing the same thing. And so, but we have a lot of banks that we work with now that local banks are amazing. I mean, most of your banks are going to be a 15 or 20 year AM,
Right.
Usually like a 5-year term, 3 to 5 year term. And right now, while we're recording this, typically in the 5 to 6% range,
Right.
which honestly, I like I said before, I find that kind of the normal range for commercial loans. But there are some credit unions and stuff that will do a little bit longer, and we've got one that's doing 30-year right now for us. So we've been doing a lot of refinancing on a 30-year, just to help it cash flow better.
So let's go back to the kind of the acquisition piece. So you got some private money lenders. If the property is 100,000 and 50,000 in renovations, you're getting private money for the full 150.
Right.
So you're not just getting private money for the down payment and using a bank loan. So you're doing private for the whole.
Yeah.
And those are typically 4-6 month loans, and they want their money back.
Yeah. So we do 6-month terms. Most of the people we work with, they want to keep their money working. So typically, as soon as one pays off, like we're borrowing it right on the next property and just keeping their money working.
Okay. Drop a couple bank names, because I've found some banks that I use that allow me to do 25-year AMs. You're finding 30-year AMs. Are they still fixed for a couple years, or are they a 30-year fixed?
Yeah, so Ogle is a 30-year AM, and if I remember right, we just started using them, so I need to double check, but I'm pretty sure it's locked for 10.
Oh, okay.
It may just be 5, but I think it's 10. That's the only one that's doing the 30 locally right now that I know of. There are some that do 25, but none that we really use. The next ones would be 20. So Tinker bought Prime Bank.
Okay.
So they do commercial now. So Tinker has a great product. For security, Sooner State Bank are 2 banks that I've used my whole career.
Yeah.
McLean Bank in Norman, they're a great bank. They do, I believe it's like the way that you can do 3 or 5. It's typically a little bit higher interest rate to lock in the 5-year than the 3-year.
Right.
It's usually not, it's maybe a quarter point, but I'm pretty sure they're a 20-year AM. Chickasaw Bank locally is a great bank.
So when you see a deal come across, do you try to pair the deal with the bank too, based on what kind of rate or cash flow you can get? If it's right on the line of maybe not cash flowing where you want, do you try to go push for a 30-year to?
It kind of depends. So like a lot of our refinance stuff, we end up going on the 30-year AM. And then if we have ones that maybe we are running low on private money, or just the timeline works so that way we can keep our private money freed up, then maybe we'll go with a different bank that has better acquisitions terms.
Gotcha.
So yeah, it just kind of depends on the deal, but I would say 80% of the time we're using private money to buy it.
Yeah, okay, that's great. So I kind of had a similar, not near as aggressive, but I have 24 rental properties that we acquired over about 20 months. And so initially I didn't have any history, so I went to like 4 or 5 different banks. I had debt with like 5 different people, but just a little bit. And over time I realized it's better to have a bunch of debt with more consolidated banks, because they trust you more, that you had a better relationship. They're more vested in your success. So I've over time whittled it down to 3 banks now. But as you acquire through those, most of them are going to allow 75% or 80% loan to value. Sometimes appraisals don't come in. Is there situations where you're having to leave larger amounts of money in the deal with your private lender, or how does that all work out? Do you not do it if you can't pull out the full 20%, or how does that normally work?
There are properties that will buy a little higher that we want, like the one I mentioned in Piedmont earlier, that, we're leaving some money in that. But at the same time, a month ago, there might have been one that when we refied, we bought it right where we pulled out 10 grand or something. And so I would say, because we have a process where we're doing multiple, like there's some that end up, money gets left in, our money, we don't leave private lending. We always pay off the private lending. But 2 or 3 deals down the road, we might be getting a check back when we refinance. So it all works out in the end. And so like with our rental properties, like right now, like we've just been growing it so aggressively, like I don't really take any of those funds. The funds just stay in that account to help it grow. So that way when we see that deal where we've got to leave, $10,000, $15,000 in it, but it's a really good deal, then we can do that.
Because you've got that operating account that's kind of helping that. And you're putting most of your refis on 30-year AMs, you said.
Yeah.
Almost all of them are.
Yeah.
If you can get it. So a problem I ran into, I'm curious if you experienced this, because for me, I've learned it's just kind of a cash management game. You're pulling money out of this, you're moving it here, there's toilet, there's HVAC, there's a new acquisition, there's down payment money and points and fee, all, you know, it's, you know, you're kind of moving money all over the place in my experience. And I got to a point a couple times where I had 2 or 3 renovations going at a time, and I just ran out of cash.
Yeah.
Couldn't buy anymore. Found deals, couldn't buy anymore. Do you run into that? Do you experience the same thing, especially at your scale, or do you just go find more private money? Because if you got the deal's the hard part. So if you got the deal, do you go try to find the hard money, or do you just start wholesaling to kind of replenish the cash? What's that process like for someone who does more than me?
So you talking about like your operating funds running low? Is that
Yeah.
what?
Yes. Yeah.
Well,
just cash on hand. Yeah.
and we've built up now just that we've been doing it long enough, and did a big refi a while back that we were able to put some funds away, but kind of figure out a process. It's kind of like a profit first type process, but where we have multiple bank accounts. And so we've got the operating account, we've got the rehab funds account, your bigger projects account that's just kind of saving for, that next project, and your taxes account. So just these different accounts, so that way you can kind of put it away. And like, as far as operating money, like you've got your operating expenses, and it's usually a lot more than we actually need. Because there's been, I'll tell you, over the eight years, there's been multiple times it gets down to near zero, and you're like, what in the hell is going to happen?
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, it always shows up and happens in time, right? And so, especially with the size of our business now, like, we've got to make sure we keep a substantial amount in the bank. It's not just me anymore. I've got 25
Employees.
Families depending on the business, and like I said, it's not me. Some of that's not even me making those decisions anymore. It's just it's a true business that's just running every day. But as far as like running out of private money, yeah, I mean, it happens too. I mean, I think last time I checked, I think we have like $5 million of private money. Sounds like a lot of money, but when you're buying that many, like, it goes fast, because when we hold 3 to 5 rentals, and then you got 2 or 3 flips going, but that's just 1 month's worth. You've still got last month's that's kind of finishing up, and I mean it goes fast. So we're always talking to new lenders. We're always talking to new banks, especially with the possible shaky market coming up. I mean, you never know which bank's going to get scared.
Back.
And right now, all of them are still moving forward. But like when COVID hit, like, there was an oh crap moment, right? And there was some banks that stopped lending during COVID. I had before March of 2020, I had never used private money. And that's probably one good thing that came out of COVID for us, was that, like, we started raising money, and it's really compounded. At the same time, like, we have amazing banks that we work with that have been born out of that too. So building those multiple relationships, not depending on just that one, because if they're the one that gets scared during the market, like, your business is over.
Yeah, I got some emails during April, May, June of 2020, like, our LTVs are changing, our down payment requirements are changing, our rates are going to freeze. And so, just because, again, they didn't know what they were pulling back. I think they were just decentivizing people to do anything right now.
Yeah.
So to kind of go back a little bit, Profit First is a book, and I can't remember the guy's name. It's a long, weird name.
Mike Michalowicz or something like that?
Michalowicz, yeah.
And there's a new one, and I need to read it, but
is it based on?
It's Profit First for Real Estate Investors. It's written by David Richter.
Oh, okay.
So that's a good one too. Like I said, I haven't read it yet, but I actually work with his company, Simple CFO, and so.
Okay. So, and it's just, again, for the people at home, it's a cash flow management book,
right,
where you pay yourself first, set up separate accounts,
to
make sure you never run out of money.
Almost the easy way to explain it would almost be like, everybody's heard of Dave Ramsey has like the envelope system. It's almost kind of like that, but with bank accounts
and cash, business cash flow.
And debt is okay.
Yeah. Yes. Debt is okay. Debt is necessary. Do you utilize any business line of credits or anything or is it just private money and then your bank debt? Do you have business line of credits to help with any kind of operating cash?
No, currently we don't. We don't have any kind of line of credits like that.
Okay. Do you work with like guidance line of credits from your banks?
Yeah, so we have multiple, probably have you technically set up on a guidance line. That's kind of how most of these small community banks work, is they underwrite you once a year. Yep. So if you're going to quit your job, don't do it before you get under it. But they basically underwrite you once a year, and so guidance line is basically you're approved up to a certain amount, but they're still going to look at every deal individually as far as like what it appraised for and stuff like that. But you as a borrower, they're only looking at once per year. And so we have 2 main ones that we've got guidance lines. I mean, each of them give us a $5 million guidance line, and so we've got $10 million, and we haven't used much of it right now, so we're trying to buy some property.
Kind of get stuff, yeah. And that's the crazy thing that I've learned too when I got into it is, just like you said earlier, if you're with the right banks, they're like, go spend my money, right? Because it's just sitting over here and it's not so they want you to go buy stuff, as long as it makes sense and the appraisals work and all that. But yeah, getting that guidance line approved gives you the ability to go out and start finding some stuff. Have you worked with any banks or do anything with like debt service ratio loans, DSR loans?
No, not really. I mean, all these banks are going to look at that, but I haven't done any of those type of loans that are really called like the DSCR loans.
Yeah, where it's just based on property and not based on borrower.
And that's like your lending homes and companies like that. But so no, I haven't. Just like I said, with the local community banks that we have here, I've just never felt the need to get away from that. Maybe I should have, like last year when rates were good and locked in like a 30-year AM or something, but no, we haven't ever done any of those.
So we've talked a little bit about your team. Tell me how you started. Who was the first person you hired? How have you scaled? What were some of the first things you got off yourself so that you can go do the more, the higher valued activities? What's your team look like now? How does it grow?
So I kind of started 2019 because when I first started, like I had an assistant and then she left, I think in like 2016, and I didn't replace her, and it was just kind of one-man show. But in 2019, when we kind of started over, when we left the franchise, started our own brand, it was me for maybe 2 months of moving home to Oklahoma, and then we hired an acquisition specialist. And then at our mastermind, somebody told me, if you have one, you have none. So basically, like if you're trying to build a business like that one, especially acquisition specialist, because that's your salesperson.
Sales, yeah.
And so if they get sick or they leave or whatever, you're back in that role. And so we quickly hired our second one. Hiring that second one without even spending more money on marketing or anything, our number of deals doubled overnight. Just because when you had one person focused on the leads, they're kind of going through the hot ones and picking out what's good today, and they might not even have time for follow-up on some of the warm and cold leads.
Yeah.
But as soon as you had two sets of eyes on them, all of a sudden they're pulling double the leads out because you have more attention, and then also there's like a competitiveness to it with the sales guys on how quickly they answer the phone and things like that. So we hired sales first, even though that was the position I was best at. Just to build a business, I felt like I needed that in place. Hired those two positions first, and then like I said, for the longest time, probably a year, I was everything else. Transaction coordinator, I was project manager, I was CFO, CEO. I mean, it was a lot, and looking back today, I don't know how I did it.
Yeah.
But I think as an entrepreneur, you're a different breed, and just working 24 hours a day doesn't bother you as much. But after that, I would say our next hire was probably, I think, a transaction coordinator. And then after that, at this position, which we call them relationship manager now, but they basically are handling selling all our deals. And then now we've got a director of operations. We have people that are doing cold calling. We have, marketing. Logan's here with us today. We have, we have an office coordinator,
operations,
leads manager, operations, and then we have a fractional CFO that we work with. I think that's everybody. I don't know that I'm forgetting everyone, but
so how do you pay sales and disposition? Are they just a percentage of what they bring in, or how does that?
Yeah, so up to this point, we literally just revamped this. But up to this point, it's been commission only positions. Okay. You eat what you kill type thing. But it's been harder and harder to hire that commission only position, and I don't really know why. But there's fewer and fewer people today that are willing to take a commission-only position. And so we have revamped where now we're going to be doing a base plus. Okay. Just kind of changing the way sales looks in our office too. I mean, there's a lot more on the phone rather than driving around.
More outbound too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we still have a lot of inbound leads and stuff coming in, but we're just in the office, with today, the technology today, I can tell we know someone is serious. We don't need to even see the house. Before, it was you're in the living room every single time. But how many were you meeting with that were never even serious? Yeah. Because until recently, we didn't have a retail side of our business, and so just because they call you wanting that cash offer, they might not understand the business yet, and they think cash offer, I can get, $100,000 for my $100,000 house. They don't understand that, we're here to help people that need to close fast, or they have repairs they can't handle, whatever it is. And so weeding out those, well, now we can do that we just do that over the phone rather than going meeting with 20 people to find the one. We try to weed out at least the 10 or 15 over the phone to go meet with 5 or 6.
A better qualifying process over the phone. And so if your disposition position gets paid when they sell a property, but if you as a company are trying to hold a bunch, did that get tricky, or do you keep them busy enough where they can keep?
He gets paid on all of them.
Okay, on all transactions, bought or sold. Okay.
Yeah.
Where's the majority? And if you want to give me all your secrets, please. But where are these leads coming from? Are they direct to seller marketing? Are they outbound? Are they realtor referrals? Other wholesalers? Where's your number one lead source?
Number one would probably be cold calling, just because nobody wants to do it.
Just outbound. Yeah.
And it's freaking hard work.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to be cold called. And so you've got to be good at turning that negativity and turning them into a friend. At the size we are, we do everything. I mean, we've been around long enough. We get tons of realtor referrals and referrals from individuals, and we do TV marketing, we do direct mail, we do cold calling, we do texting. You name it, we're probably doing it. But everybody wants to ask that question, what's the best piece of marketing? And the best piece of marketing is the one that you're going to be consistent with.
Yeah.
Because if you choose mail and you mail 1 month, it's not going to work for you.
Right.
If you don't plan to do at least 6 months consecutive every single month, that's not going to work for you.
Yeah.
With any of those, if you're not going to follow up with those leads, you're wasting your money. So we have one position I actually forgot to mention in our company. We have 3 follow-up specialists. All they do all day long is follow up with people.
People you've already touched.
People we've already talked to, and then if they become interested again, it turns into a hot lead again, then it goes back to acquisition specialists. But literally all they're doing every day is following up.
That's great.
If you're not going to follow up, you're again wasting money, because not everybody that calls on your marketing is ready to go today. It might be a year from now. We've bought stuff from 5 years ago, that came in 5 years ago. And so most people wait until they have to, especially if in the investment side, where most of the people that are selling it, there's some sort of pain attached to it. And so I get said people wait to the very last minute, especially with like foreclosures and stuff. Like, I can't tell you how many foreclosures we've bought, and it's 2 weeks from the day,
sale.
right? And it's like getting a call a couple weeks ago. But so consistency is the biggest thing in marketing. It all works. We've done some mentorships in the past, and there's guys that throw out and like go just talk to probate attorneys, and like they've built a whole business on it. And you don't even have to spend money on marketing. Like, you can go door knock people, you can go network, and there's so many different ways.
Yeah. If you're not comfortable, don't say. How much are you spending a month on your marketing, and how often do you reevaluate where your ad spend is going, or where your money spent is going?
So as far as how often, we look at KPIs every single month, sometimes daily, honestly. You're looking at your KPIs, and so you want your marketing to be at least 3x. If it's not 3x, then it's not really worthwhile.
Meaning?
3 times the spend. So if you're spending 10 grand, you should be getting 30 grand back.
Right, okay.
And that's the biggest thing we're always looking at. I don't know that we've really had to cut out a channel, but we do, that sometimes they get close, and there's certain ones that we maybe debate cutting, but then it's like, well, it drives these other things too, because it's one that everybody sees, and so is it helping your brand on the other?
Yeah.
So there's a lot that goes into that deciding, but we do spend quite a bit of money on marketing.
Okay.
It's a hefty amount. I'll probably just leave it at that.
Okay, that's good. So that's kind of the like bandit signs, which is the thing everyone sees. The Brett buys houses. Do people ever call those anymore, or is it just a brand awareness thing at this point, so that when you get a text from me, you have seen me before?
I honestly couldn't give much input on bandit signs. We don't really do a whole lot of bandit signs, so I don't know if they work or not. But what we do with them is we put them in the yards of the houses that we buy, and we do get calls off of those. So that I know that part works, but we've never really been out just putting them on all the street corners. It's never been our thing.
Yeah. So you're looking at your KPIs. If you're spending $2,000 on this lead source a month, and you're not getting the 6, then you're looking at ways to tweak it or potentially pull it out anytime. You're always looking for that 3x.
Yeah, and the first thing you got to look at is, like, are you converting? Like, what's your conversion? Because it might not be the marketing, it might be you. And so you got to look at like who's the one, talking to the sellers. So that's always kind of the first thing, like manage, especially with a team doing, it's not me. So managing the team, listening to their calls, just, always constant training. And then if everything's on par there, then it's, okay, what's going on with this marketing channel? Is it just only bringing in retail type leads? Is it not bringing in any leads? I mean, what's going on with it?
Yeah. Is it difficult to hire and keep cold callers or your follow-up specialists, or what's that? Because it's a grinding process. So is that something where you hire people just for that, or people on your team rotate, or how does that work?
So we used to have our acquisition specialist do it.
Okay.
And we didn't cold call it until COVID happened. And then I was like, people are gonna be at home.
Right.
Might as well give them a call.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it was born for us, but it wears you out if you're not good at brushing stuff off, like, because people are super negative. And I get it, like, I mean, I catch myself when I'm being, get a cold call or whatever, and just nobody likes it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's a marketing channel. I mean, nobody likes direct mail either. I can't tell you the amount of negative calls you get just for sending a letter. And people will think, like, put it in their mailbox. I'm like, no, it came through the mail. It didn't come by your house. So yeah, cold callers, we have people that are dedicated. That's just all they do. And so it's finding that person that can let stuff roll off their back, and it's not going to beat them down. If you're in the early stages, you got to do what you got to do, but it's something you want to get off of your sales guys as soon as possible, I think, because it beats you down.
Yeah. So what do you utilize? The first thing I've heard, at least in the investing world, first thing you want to do is hire VAs for kind of assistance, for calls. Just what do you utilize VAs for? I think you said you had some virtual.
Yeah, so our VAs do anything from cold calling to following up to admin tasks, bookkeeping. We have a VA for project managers, so that way my project manager can just be in the field looking at projects all day long, and so like receipts and invoice and all that stuff just goes straight to the VA, and so he doesn't have to really sit down at a computer. Like, he's just managing, he's always at a project. You can have VAs help with some of your marketing stuff. You can train a VA to like place like your direct mail orders. I mean, there's nothing you could build your whole business around VAs. We like the office atmosphere, so we have quite a few in office, but I mean, you could build your whole business with VAs. Are
your VAs domestic or are they offshore?
Most of them offshore, yeah. Philippines are the majority of them, yeah.
Okay, yeah. I don't know. The Philippines and I think Jamaica I've seen some from. I don't know why those two are hubs for VAs.
Yeah, I'm not
sure what sparked that.
Yeah, I don't know either, but lower wages is better wages over there. As far as like, for a low wage for here is a really good for them. But at the same time, like, they have a strong work ethic.
Yeah.
Now you're still going to come across the ones that maybe don't, but a lot of them are they work hard.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit more about kind of the current market and what you're seeing as, a lot of homeowners are curious where the rates are going, where the market's going. You own a tremendous amount of homes, so I'm sure you're researching it yourself. What are your thoughts on what's going to happen with rates, with prices, more so locally? Obviously I care about what happens in California and New York because it affects here, but what do you anticipate? Have you done much research into what you anticipate coming?
I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, and I don't claim to be that smart. But,
disclaimer.
I mean, taken from what I hear from people that are smarter than me and know more about what to look into, like, a lot of these increases have built in, like next year we could be seeing some decreases, is what I've heard. And so a lot of it, because they're trying to slow the market down, but then when it slows too far, they have room to come down to kind of get it going a little bit again. And so I hope that's what's going to happen, but I have no idea. I'm not really worried either way. I don't see, at least locally, I don't really see like a crash coming. I don't even know about nationwide, except for maybe some of the, like Salt Lake City, I've heard is already like really bad because they've had like crazy. I think they had like 40% growth last year is what I heard. That's nuts.
Yeah.
Some of those cities might get hit, but I don't see Oklahoma City being hit like that. I mean, I think the luxury market will probably slow way down, but I think with anything that's under like a $350,000 home in Oklahoma, I just don't see really. A lot of people are used to a house selling in a week.
Right.
In Oklahoma City, that's just not the norm.
Yeah.
People are easy to forget that typically it took 30 days plus to sell a house in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And so I can't tell you how many times, because we watched hot sheets every day on like seeing if there's any worth offering on. I can't tell you how many you see like 5 days in, they're already lowering their price. I'm like, in my opinion, that is not a great strategy. And I know people are looking at how amount of showings they got and stuff. It's just a weird time right now where some people are waiting to see what rates this stuff do. Like on our deals, our like retail listings that we do and our flips that we're listing and stuff, we're not even thinking about a price reduction until 30 days.
Yeah. Yep.
And so
the last two, and this is where, as a real estate agent, it's tricky because you want to get the most for your client, right? But you want to be reasonable and set expectations for your client too. And we've had two in the last couple of months where the seller, we gave him a recommendation. The seller wanted to bump it by like 25 grand because their sister-in-law, you know, whatever. And then we got multiple offers and it went over their crazy price and both appraised and closed. And so it's just like, nothing supported that price. Nothing. And then nothing supported the over asking offer either. But it happened. And so if they'd listened to me, they could have lost $30,000+ that they could have left on the table. And so as an agent, it's like, that's kind of my disclaimer is here's what I'm seeing, but it's still the Wild West out here. For most areas of town. But just like you said, vast majority of real estate agents have only been in this market the last 2-3 years. Vast majority of real estate. There's a very small percentage, 10% maybe, of agents in this market have seen prior to 2019. And days on markets were 55, 65, 80 days, 2-3 price drops. We looked at the data on the market stats on the MLS, and 9 of the last 12 months, the average price has gone over list price. It's been 100% or more of list price, which is, it's just not sustainable. It's not normal. And so that's, you know, my explanation of it is the pendulum has to swing a ton before it gets into any sort of crisis mode, because we are just so far off in the stratosphere of what's regular. And then I saw something else, you know, I got my YouTube education on this too. Someone had, I guess, looked up, and I took their word for it because I didn't double check it, but I guess there's only been one recession in the last 100 years where housing prices didn't increase. And it was the 2007, 2008 recession, because it was a housing-caused recession. And so every other recession since the beginning of the century has caused housing to increase.
Interesting.
Because it's a commodity, and inflation causes commodities to rise, I think, for the most part, if it's not being used to speculation like you talked about. But it's not slowing down. You know, I saw you do a TikTok video recently talking to wholesalers saying, these 85% loan to values that you're selling stuff at is going away. And so are you seeing that adjust yet, or are you seeing people still try to get those?
There's still some people, as far as the investors that are buying, there's still some that are buying at that, but I will say that most that are kind of backing off, not being as aggressive. I mean, we're still pretty aggressive, but we're not crazy aggressive anymore. It just depends, like if there's another increase on interest rates, I think that'll happen even more just because people get scared. And even if it's not lasting, it will, you know, hit for a month or two and then maybe kind of get back to normal. And I kind of think that's where we've been the last couple of months. I don't even know how long ago that increase was, but I do feel like the last couple of months has just kind of been in that weird phase where people are just scared of what's going to happen. And I feel like we're kind of getting back into where we're like, okay, things are still good. And so people are still buying. But I mean, I've seen local investors that are talking about that they're lowering, you know, their buy boxes and stuff. And I think if it continues to buckle down and the market starts slowing, I think a lot of the banks that offer some of that stuff will come back down too. Because these small banks, they got to lend money to stay in business. That's what they do. And so they've raised these because your local investor wasn't able to get a deal because they're selling at 80% and we only loan 70 or 75%. And so these banks have raised it to be able to still offer a product to them. If they start getting scared, they'll start reeling that back just the same way that they've rolled it up. Because, you know, back in 2014, like it was rare that you could get a loan over 70%, and then a couple of years later it's 75, and now most of them are at 80. There's even some local banks that'll do 85. I do think that will start being pulled back, which causes especially in Oklahoma, it's because these great banks, most of the investors are spoiled by being able to, finance and not really have much money left in the deal.
Yeah.
And so when the banks pull back, they're going to pull back.
Yeah. On your wholesale side, do you work with any, what we'll call institutional investors that you sell to pretty regularly? How much of your business is to that?
It's slowed down dramatically. Like last year was gangbusters. I would say 75% last year, and we were even buying a ton from realtors that were basically for these institutional. And so they were just kind of weird about like it couldn't be on the MLS. So like agents would bring it. If someone was building a house, or whatever, they could pick their closing day, or some of the, depends which ones. Some of them would let people stay in it for 2-3 months, and so they could be closed, know their house is done and sold, and be confident on getting their new construction or a new house or whatever. Or especially in the market we were in, where like every house was going multiple offers, that people liked that their house was sold. They could stay in it, and then they could find the house they wanted and go.
That's huge.
Whereas no one was taking contingency offers, in the last couple of years. So that's slowed down a little bit. We still have some of that going on, but mainly the ones we're selling to are the fixer-uppers. But they're even pulling back on their criteria. But most of them are looking more at a cap rate rather than like a percentage of ARV. So typically they're buying a little higher than like your local investor.
Yeah, that's one concern I've heard someone voices. I think at a certain point it was like over 20% of our market houses were going to institutional investors, or around 20%. I think it was 18 or 20. And if those aren't run properly, right, and someone dumps 70 houses onto the market, I think it'll still absorb it.
In my opinion, those houses will never see the market again.
Okay.
If they decide to sell or they're going under, it'll be sold to the next fund as a big group. So I don't think so those houses have basically been taken off the market. They're gone. In my opinion, who knows? They might just throw them on. You never know what they're going to do. But in my opinion, they'll never hit the market again.
Yeah, because that's just institutional investors has been a talking point.
The 20%, that seems super high. I mean, maybe it has been for the last thing, but the thing is, like, I saw a stat that they own like maybe like 1% or definitely less than 10%. I can't remember the exact number of like all the housing in like all the metro areas, which is still
across the country in Oklahoma City.
Across the country, which is like a fraction, because it's been fairly recent that your institutional buyers have gotten into this business, and it's still such a fraction. I mean, a lot of people I know complain that they're taking houses away from buyers, but I think it's a good thing for the market, honestly, because I think it will help us from having a crash, because because a lot of them have pulled back until after the midterms for whatever reason. And so, but the thing is, if you started to see the market go down, there's going to be so much money rush in that it's going to quickly level out or even go up. And I know that even with local investors, there's investors that I know that since 2014 have been standing on the sidelines with cash since I've been in the business, staying on, just waiting for the crash. So there's a ton of money on the sidelines. So
still,
I think that it's a good thing, because, like I said, if you do start seeing a downturn, there's going to be so much money raced to it, and then the people that are active are going to be buying up, that I think it will just kind of help level out.
Safety net, maybe. Yeah, I mean, here in Oklahoma City, again, on the real estate, on the retail side, those investors and the rush of money into our relatively cheap market has caused an affordability problem. Average prices have gone through the roof, and the average household income, is around $50,000, and now the average price is going up over $200,000, and it's just hard or impossible to buy something under $100,000 that's move-in ready. And it's just, I think we're gonna, over the next few years, we're gonna see affordability problems, especially with the new construction costs as high as they are. So we'll see how that kind of plays out too. Overall, no concerns. You're still business as usual, buying properties, not changing a whole bunch about how you do it or what you do.
Yeah, I mean, other than just not being as aggressive, we're still moving forward and buying up just as many as always.
Yeah, just trying to get them a little deeper, or as deep, I guess, deeper. Yeah.
Just a tip for people starting out, whether it's a realtor or wholesaler, is there's a lot of value in finding people doing deals in your market, whether if it's another agent doing a lot of deals or an investor or wholesaler. Like we flip I don't know how many houses a year. And I've never once, especially in the hot market we've had, I've never once had an agent come to me and be like, hey, what do you have coming up? I've got this client looking. Like it's like an untapped, off-market, pocket listing type source. So that'd be great for beginners, especially if the market does stay where, things are moving, which I think in the entry-level houses it's going to.
Yeah.
Like we just started developing the retail side of our business. And so there is numerous leads that like our average is like 1 in 20. So those other 19 leads, how many could be listings? And so team up with an investor that is doing that marketing. And I guarantee you, now obviously if you're an agent, they've got to be listed to pay them a referral fee. But if there's something you can work out there, and I guarantee you that, if they're not doing anything with those leads, they're going to be willing to work with you. And then on the investment wholesale side of it, we tell people all the time, like if you find a deal, bring it to us and we will help you with everything else. We will let you see it so you can learn. It's basically, on the job training, you're getting paid to learn. And, we'll just work that deal together. That way you learn and we're doing a deal. And,
that's awesome. I've done all those things in the past. That's a huge point, especially for realtors. Call investors. They've always got something going. What's coming up? See if you can sell their stuff. Makes you look better to your buyers and better to them. But the other thing too is wholesalers get 20 leads. They can only close one. The other 19. I've talked to some wholesalers in the past that don't want to give those up. They want to put them into their pipeline and follow up with them over time.
Sure.
How do you differentiate? So you've got your retail side. How do you decide, hey, retail side, go list this versus I'm going to keep this in my pipeline because I think I can buy it in a month or 2 months?
Yeah, so everybody defines a lead something different, right? And so a lead for us is someone who wants to sell, has pain of some sort, and they're realistic. And so if they call and it's a retail, like it's a perfect house, there's no pain attached, whatever, it's not a lead for us. Like I said, we were starting to build out the retail stuff, but before, that was not a lead for us.
You'll never get that.
There was no point in even following up with that lead, because if they're truly wanting to sell within a month, they're going to already probably be listed.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Like even like you might be sure there's some like follow up is huge, but you're going to know when you're talking to these people if it's a wholesale lead or if it's a retail lead. And if you don't have a retail side to your wholesale business, then there's no reason you couldn't turn those over to somebody.
Yeah, that's money on the table that you're leaving on the table.
But and even in like the ones that are leads, like if you're just getting started, like whatever you got to do to monetize or as early as possible, right? So hopefully you are, if you're wholesaling today, licensed, then you can, talk to them about listing as well. After then you got to switch hats at some point. Like you can't go in as the same time. Like it's you're just you're crossing lines, right? But and that's why we don't. It's not the same person that does it, and it's honestly we're basically referring them to another company I own, right? There is a way where you can monetize those as early as possible, so that way if you're paying for marketing just getting started, you can monetize that as soon as possible. Or if it's a partner, or if you figure out how to make that separation where it is a good separation.
Yeah. Okay, good. That's good. Kind of last question. What are some resources that you use, or softwares that you use, or people you follow online to kind of help you grow in your business, grow in your knowledge? What do you watch and look at and use?
As far as some tools, like PropStream is good. If you don't have MLS access, you can use PropStream. Honestly, we have MLS now, which we use to compile our properties, but PropStream is still good for digging at information. Oklahoma County has a pretty good website on pulling out some of that information, but some other like Cleveland or Canadian or whatever might not have the best county website, and so you can get on PropStream and pull out some of that same information. You can pull lists from there that you market to. I think being a part of the mastermind, I get a lot of my information from there now. I don't do a whole lot of YouTube or anything like that, but I know there are some great people to follow on YouTube that you can get information on. But I'd say the biggest thing to get across to people is don't be afraid to pay for education. Just make sure it's the right person. Like you don't need to go, these HGTV people are coming through and charging $70,000. Like that's not. Find a local mentor And if price tag's 10 or 20 grand, so what? I mean, most of them are not that high, but so what? Like, you're going to, first of all, you're going to pay for that if you're like in flipping or wholesaling or whatever. You're probably going to pay for that in 1 or 2 deals. But you are just skipping ahead. Like, you're learning everything that they've learned not to do over the last 10 years. You're learning it in 3 months or whatever. So you're fast forwarding your success. So don't be afraid to pay for that mentoring and education, because it's very worthwhile for sure.
Is this good advice? Call Ogle Properties and see if they need someone to help them do their disposition or do their calling, or, I mean, can you go work for someone for a couple years, learn what they do? Is that bad advice or is that good advice?
I would say it depends, right? Like, if your goal is just to go copy my business,
right,
then you're probably not going to be hired. But if you see the value in a team,
right?
Like, we hire people that are interested in real estate all the time, but typically I'll use Logan for example. Like, Logan does our marketing and content creation, and so he wanted to get started in real estate. He has no interest in wholesaling at all, which is kind of our main, but he wants to buy rental property and start putting away rental properties. And so he came to work with us, and within a month had his first property.
Oh, wow.
Throwing you under the bus here, but you've been looking like a year into real estate? And so, and I told him that's not the only one he's doing this year. So like, if that's kind of your goal and you like being a part of a team or something, yes, we are hiring. We're hiring for agents. We're hiring for acquisitions. We've got multiple roles we're hiring for. We're growing and we're pushing forward. We're in 2 markets. We're actually in Oklahoma City and Tulsa, and possibly going into a 3rd soon. And so we're always hiring. But I would say that, like I said, if your goal is just to go in and copy someone's business, most people are not going to want to hire you.
Want that.
But if that's what you want to do, is you want a business like mine, like, there's mentorship programs. We've done them in the past. We may again in the future. But find someone that has some kind of a mentorship program. And they don't have to be local. I know I said, find someone local. But just make sure that you're researching who you're paying, because there are a lot out there. Like I said, the price is too high and the value's maybe not there. But I don't think there's anything wrong with paying for mentorship. We just signed up, even at the size we are, we just signed up with a new business coach yesterday. Main reason is because my director of operations is fairly new, and she's new to real estate. And so a lot of it's to get her coached and trained up, but even to help us. So if you're not growing, you're dying.
Yeah.
We're still paying for education and coaching today. And I pay for a mastermind that we're part of every year, and we've spent a lot of money on education just this year alone.
Yeah, good.
But there are people that you can team up with to fast track. So there are opportunities out there, but you got to get out and network and build relationships with these people. It's not just going to happen from sitting on your couch.
What's a good opportunity to get out and network with people? Like, you have a monthly meetup that you do?
Yeah, so there's a lot of great meetups in Oklahoma City, but we host a monthly happy hour. It's on the 2nd Tuesday of the month. We're moving locations for next month, so I don't know exactly where it is, but you can just check me out on social media and find it. It's grown to 100 plus people, 150. I don't know the exact amount. I don't sit there and count, but it's grown to be a good community of people that are coming out, building relationships, doing deals with each other, whether it's retail or wholesale. And it's focused. That happy hour is focused on real estate. So we have realtors, we have lenders, we have contractors, we have wholesalers, investors, you name it, they're in the room. And it was actually last night, the event, and I met a hard money lender last night. I met a framer last night. I met some more realtors. You name it, they're there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, especially when you're trying to learn something new. The more people you can talk to and have these conversations, the more you're going to learn. So, well, man, I very much appreciate your time. Thank you for coming out.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And hopefully we can do some more deals, do some more business and stuff in the future. So I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, thank you.